Hello, everyone. This is Mika. I'm pleased to welcome some awesome guests today. I was really looking forward to this day when I could interview James Gilliland and Peter Maxwell Slattery. Both of them are experiencers of E.T and UFOs contact and are at the forefront of the field. The information, knowledge, wisdom, insights, and messages conveyed through their experiences, along with their broad perspectives, will bring us various awareness and tips. I hope you all enjoy this time. I'd like to invite them. Hello, James and Peter. Thank you for joining me today. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I've really been looking forward to it.
Oh,
Thank you
thanks
for having us.
So, I have many questions, so I'd like to get started right away. You both have already mentioned many times the danger of attempting to make contact with UFOs, extraterrestrials, guides, or other beings without doing clearing. Could you tell us again about the impact and the danger of not doing it, about its importance? And also, is there a way to identify false beings who pretended to be higher dimensional beings and convey beautiful appearances and messages? And is it possible to connect with higher dimensional beings of 5 dimensions or more without doing clearing?
You want me to take that, Peter?
Yeah, you take that, mate.
Yeah, it's very, very important that, like in any tradition, even Shinto tradition or whatever, there's all kinds of spirits out there. And we have a saying, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened, and just because you're an ET doesn't mean you're benevolent. And so if you don't create sacred space and do clearings, you don't know who's going to come in. And it's like having a Ouija board. A lot of people do Ouija boards and they play around with those, and pretty soon they're getting possessed and things are flying around the room and crazy things happening because they didn't do clearings. And so it's very, very important to heal any unseen negative influences. And there's all kinds out there. I mean, there are serpent beings, there's royal reptilians, Dracos, negative grays, demonic type energies, a lot of just sometimes just discarnate spirits, ancestors that are still hanging around that need clearing. And so the mind in which you connect is the mind in which you seek. So if your mind isn't clear and you don't have sacred space, that lets any kind of entities come in. And it also, the message that comes through is going to be altered and filtered. So the message that comes through is determined by the person seeking the message, their mind and beliefs, and also the level that they connected with or the entity that they connected with. And so we have, I mean, Peter's takes some beautiful photos of Kuan Yin appearing here. We have masters appearing here all the time. Baba G, Yeshua, Mother Mary, the House of Mary is really connected here. And they're here all the time. And so we're always working with them and clearing any unseen negative influences. And because of that, we're also on a vortex where it's a purple zone, the government calls it, because the veils between worlds are very thin here. And so you have to keep the energy clear. If not, other things come in and then everything goes off track, So that's basically what we do.
I'll add here too. James, for over 40 years, has been doing what he's been doing, and I've been doing it for just under 20, around 17 years now. And what's important that I want to add here is that James was well known in the early days also for channeling. And we've got a lot of channelers worldwide these days. And also got a best-selling series on channeled material. And one of the first things James asked me when we met, we've been best friends for over a decade now,
Yeah.
was how do you do your chat? Like, how do you write your books? And I said, I just clear and then I just write and I don't look at the material until like it's editing time to make sure it's okay. Because when you're in multidimensional mind, it's like when you're remote viewing, you might not be good in your spelling. You sort of get it out because you're balancing right and left brain. But this is the thing with James, is that it's always important with clearing. Like even his earlier material with Ezekiel, it was all about clearing, because as soon as you drop that, and I've worked with thousands of people, when they've had a negative experience and they've initiated something, I'll say, did you do a clearing? Every time they didn't do a clearing. And so it's just very important to do that for yourself, your space, especially if you're living with other people. Even just having that authority of clearing your space in your environment can really help with the positive contact. And anyone's got access to these high dimensional beings, but it is important to rise to the occasion, as James says, and like to be in that high frequency space through clearing.
Thank you. On this earth, many things are manipulated and the truth is hidden. I think knowing the truth is very important. On the other hand, I feel if we go too deep into that world, our negativity will become stronger and be away from the spiritual world. In addition, we may also get caught up in a different direction. I feel this way because when I was around 14 years old, I realized the strangeness of the media and wanting to know the truth. I took a small step into that field in my 20s. What do you both think is important to keep in mind in order to maintain a balance between knowing the truth, physical reality, and the spiritual world?
Yeah, it's really important to practice what I call loving detachment. And that way you can view anything and view it without fear or without letting it take your energies down. And, I've gone down some very dark rabbit holes seeking the truth. And if you don't know how to practice loving detachment, and it's going to taint you, it's going to take your energies down. And if that's all you focus on, it's pretty soon you won't even want to be here anymore, because you're tuning into all that negativity and those entities, unseen entities and everything. And it gets really overwhelming, especially if you don't know how to clear your energies and spend a lot of time in the higher dimensional realms, the very loving, joyous, blissful realms. So there has to be a balance and loving detachment, or you can get taken over and your life can go very wrong. And also too, when you find out the truth, you got to be careful who you share it with, because there are forces seen and unseen that will do all they can to try to shut you up, stop you from telling the truth. And it's sadly, especially in the UFO community, it's a controlled narrative. It's a multi-million-dollar, probably $1 billion business. There's a lot of competition, a lot of jealousy, a lot of backstabbing going on. And it's very sad, but I tell people, unless we start, raising our consciousness and become morally and integrity correct, that we aren't going to have contact with spiritually and technologically advanced beings. They won't have anything to do with this if our frequencies aren't up, if we don't raise our frequencies. And sadly, unfortunately, it's become a very controlled narrative, and a lot of people aren't who they say they are. And there's a lot of 70-year-old stories that they keep repeating over and over again, when contact is happening now with these spiritually and technologically advanced beings that have risen to the occasion. The people that have risen to the occasion are having contact, and it's happening globally now. And the skies are filled with ships, but the people that are morally and integrity challenged are not having contact. But unfortunately, they're at the top of the list, when it comes to the ufologists and things like that. It's kind of sad. So we empower people to make their own contact, to clear any unseen negative influences, heal any childhood trauma, past life trauma, raise their frequencies so they can have their own contact.
I think just another thing as well is just, and James touched on it, is grounding. So whether it's actually connecting with the earth, physically connecting with the earth, even through imagination, through the light body, pushing our energy down into the earth, eating grounding foods, exercise. There's a heap of things that can keep you grounded, but also to be in truth, you've got to ask yourself, what power is it that an external force has over you? Because when we're in situations throughout our life, a lot of the time we're giving people power because in some cases, even unknowingly, we want something from them, whether it's acceptance, whether it's, a number of different things. And so that's one thing that I ask people to ask themselves, and James does it in his own way a lot, which is, why are you giving this power away? What do you want from somebody else? And this is where the loving detachment comes in, because when you love everyone unconditionally, you're not attached to an outcome. And when somebody hurts you, it can be that it was your own expectations of what you thought that person should do or be through your own lens that's actually hurting you because they're not responding or acting a way that you want. And that's the big thing in self-mastery that both James and I teach, is the self-mastery aspect here. And when you're able to be in those places, like James is well aware of, especially when you're interacting with beings like the Pleiadians or their Iron Council of Light, there's this frequency that you hold that they can see and read everything about you, and they know that your intentions are pure when you're interfacing with them, if you're in that constant contact. So they know if you've got any expectations or anything you're trying to get from them. And they see that purest of heart, which Yeshua and the different masters also speak about, that we've all got within. So just that balance, and even checking yourself, what do I want out of this situation, but also just to love without conditions or barriers.
Yeah, I wanted to
Thank
add to
you.
that. The come from is really important. So if you're coming at this because you want fame and fortune and you want to gain acceptance and approval from others, a lot of times it's what you didn't get as a child or things like that. You could be easily influenced and taken off track, and go down a very dark path. So if your motives and intentions are to be of service, to educate people, to empower people, then you're going to work with other beings that are of like mind, that are here to educate, empower, and heal and help others. And so it's very, very important to be brutally honest with ourselves as to why we're doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When I was about 14 or 15 years old, after sleep paralysis, I had the experience of scary-looking old woman straddling me and punching me in the face several times. It wasn't as strong as the pain in this physical dimension, but definitely felt like I'd been punched in the face. It was my first scary experience of being physically attacked by a ghost-like entity, which happened several times. This is an experience from before I knew about clearing or shielding. But even after shielding and clearing before going to sleep, I sometimes still have nightmares or scary experiences. You both shared that you had actually experienced physically injured by negative beings. In addition, it was also shared that Peter had his experience of being strangled and almost killed. Why does such a thing happen even after clearing? Also, do guides or other beings not help in such a case?
Yeah. Peter, you want to take that, and I'll
Yeah. So the thing with clearings is that is a band-aid to an extent, but it needs to be done. And what I mean by that is, to a certain extent, if we don't rewire the mind, clearings can only assist to a certain extent. And these higher beings are always there to assist us if we're doing the clearing. But clearing is also like a shower. You have to have a shower every day and keep clean. You can't just have one shower and expect the rest of our life that we don't need to have another shower. And so when you're doing stuff like James and I, and even yourself, a lot of these beings see us as light, and the old saying of the moth to the flame. And so when you're doing this work, you're still going to have forms of battles. An example, Yeshua Jesus still had battles in the work that he was doing, just because he was coming through showing us all that we, ye are all gods. He still was casting demons out. He was being attacked and was going through all that as well. So we're in a situation that I recommend at least 3 clearings a day at a base level, morning, lunch, and night before bed. But there is situations that both James and I have had that is because of the work that we're doing, and also people doing witchcraft, that they might even just find out about you in an interview on a podcast. And there are people that are taken over by the dark, that they will go and do attacks on people like us in a way for fun that they don't understand. But it's because these lower entities that are what are called dark masters, royal reptilian serpents, they're working through these individuals, a lot of the time assisting to give them the power that they've got through deals that they've made, aligning with not so good intelligences, and we just happen to take the wrath for that. Yeah, I'll let you go, James, and I'll elaborate if there's anything else I can think of on that.
Yeah. There's a saying in India, the closer you get to nirvana, which is bliss, or your own personal God connection or enlightenment, the more the demons rear their ugly heads. And so the greater your light, the more things come to you and try to stop you from becoming enlightened and self-mastery and things like that. And so it comes with the territory, and you just have to keep after it. And there are lessons along the way. One particular time, I was just sleeping in bed. I was out of body, and something jumped in and wouldn't let me come back into my body. And I had to fight to get back into my body. And I finally got back into my body, and I walked down to the ocean. It was really cold, and I just walked into the ocean, and the salt water and everything got totally cleared up whatever was left. And I was, to be honest with you, I was kind of angry at the masters for letting that happen. I go, why did you let this happen to me? And I was meditating, and I hear the voice in my head, and it goes, you did well. And I went, what do you mean I did well? And they said, well, that was an initiation. You need to know that these things are real. These entities are real. And now that you've beat it and you've learned how to beat these entities, you can teach others and help others. And it was a form of initiation I had to go through. But I understood after that. But then I said, I want proof. I want proof that this is real. This path I'm on, this is getting crazy. And then I looked down at my feet, and I'm on a beach with just sand, nothing else, maybe a small little shell here and there. And I see this beautiful heart-shaped rock right in front of me. And I picked it up, and I went home, and Tom Dongo was there, a friend of mine, and he's a remote viewer, and I showed him the rock, and he said, oh yeah, Jesus manifested that for you. He said you needed physical proof, so it's kind of like, it's just part of the path to enlightenment. You're going to be challenged. The greater your light, the more the challenge. And it's just the path. It's the way it is. There's a light force and a dark force. And if you start really lighten up your spirit and soul, that dark force is going to be threatened by it, and they are going to come and try to mess with you.
And interestingly enough, I had a similar thing in my own way, where it was probably nearly 15 years ago, my house became extremely dark at times through attacks when I was helping people with paranormal investigations and clearing locations. And when I ended up getting through it and clearing it, I actually had Yeshua Jesus and some feline cat beings from Sirius come through. And I was in a very similar state to James of frustration. And what occurred was the information from both Yeshua Jesus and the feline beings, one of them Patmos specifically, was that I had to go through that to realize the power that I had, so I could do a similar thing, which was assist others in clearing and shifting these energies. So it's something almost like a parent to a child. You've got to let that child have its journey and sort of not helicopter parent, as they say. And you know that they're going to make mistakes, but you also know that they're going to do things that is beautiful and amazing. And this is how they see us, is that we've got to sometimes go this alone. And if it gets too hectic, they will watch in on. But a lot of this we've got to do ourselves because of the capability and power we've got. That's why a lot of us are here, because of the power that we've got from other lifetimes and experience to help other souls here at this time to find their true potential as well. And a lot of manipulation going on. So like a lot of the strongest God sent here at this time to assist the rest of his children.
Yeah, I wanted to add one more thing to that.
Yes.
We have to realize that, like in ufology, it's a very controlled narrative. And when you step outside of the narrative, the last thing they want you to talk about is spiritually and technologically advanced off-worlders, because they are a threat to the the war and disease profiteers and the dark hearts that are running the show. So it is, again, it's a very controlled narrative, and there's a lot of censorship. And when you are in contact with these higher dimensional beings that are just pure love and joy and bliss, and they want to assist us in transcending, all these limitations and take a quantum leap in consciousness and in evolution, there are other groups that are doing all they can to censor that. And that's why everything's kind of a limited hangout right now. They're showing you fuzzy Tic Tacs and they're still asking the question, are they real? Are they not? And we know the beings, we know the different races, the different cultures that are coming here, their ancient history on the earth, and we know them by name. We've actually meet these beings and we photographed them. Peter's got some beautiful pictures of the Palladians, and he took a picture of Kuan Yin appearing over here at the ranch and quite a few other pictures. So we have the
And Master
witnesses.
Khan from Japan. He's got a heap.
Matt
Yeah,
Khan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Master Khan over there. He took some beautiful pictures
Yeah.
of a lot of Mary, Mother Mary, all kinds of. You got Ezekiel, which is an ascended version of Ezekiel. I'm trying to think of what else he got. He got so many
feline beings, cat beings.
Yeah, the feline
yeah.
beings. He got photographs of them as well. So I don't know if you're in touch with him. If you see him, give him a big hug. We miss him over here.
Thank you.
Mhm.
No matter how many times I did clearing, there were times when I would repeatedly get trapped in negative thoughts. Why does this happen? Even if I try something else I can do, there are times when I can't get out of that loop. What kind of influence do you think caused that? Is there a way to deal with that?
Want me to take that, Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found out that you've got to lose the fear, and we have to clear up any past transgressions of entities and things like that. And we are going to have those challenges. We can go back and clear those and have the higher beings clear those out of our system, any residual energies. And again, it's like one day, just not too long ago, I was actually totally thrown out of my bed and across the room, and I was laughing the whole time. And this being didn't know what to do with it. And then I called the lion beings, and it was game over. But they catch you off guard every once in a while, and they try to get you angry and sad, or try to get you into the baser emotions. And you have to become the observer and just totally watch yourself and watch your emotions and things, and set a boundary and say, not mine. These are not my thoughts. These are not my emotions. And make your own connection back to creator, and or whatever higher beings you're working with, and ask for assistance, and then do the clearings, and it takes care of that.
Yeah, just being conscious of your thoughts. I think it's a great, easy technique and tool that James does talk about, of even speaking, not my thoughts, calling it out. We tend to find that when these psychic attacks occur, they'll usually play scenarios that haven't happened, and 99% of a chance. It's hard to give a percentage, but usually let's say at least 90 something plus of events that won't even occur. So a lot of time we'll assume our worst fears, or we'll assume that this will happen, or we'll assume that will happen. And they usually play on that as well. So just being conscious and aware of your thoughts, calling it out, going not mine, as well as clearing, and even doing something to shift the energy, whether it's dancing, music, going for a walk, exercise. If it's that bad, these things can also help to shift those energies, because the way that we can really master things is learning our patterns. And we all operate differently, which means the psychic attacks will operate differently. But this is the thing, that when you're dealing with higher intention, dimensional beings, because they can read you, they don't judge you. So we've got to be okay within ourselves to be seen for what we are, our scars, our warts, our beauty, everything. And so the negative influences will play on that. And that's also a litmus test. You can tell who's who with that, because they will try to use your thoughts and your own insecurities and past traumas, and your own judgments and your regrets, everything. So just speaking it out, these things, it's like a shower. You're going to have to constantly do it, and it will get easier. And every now and then, like James explained then with what happened with him getting thrown out of bed, you'll also go through a battle once in a blue moon that's pretty full on. But it's because you're a worthy opponent, you could say, because of the work that you're doing. It's not just going to happen to anyone. And usually there's circumstances surrounding, if it does happen to anyone, that they've opened themselves up to really low frequency energies.
I think one more thing to add to that is that in my own near-death experience, I went through all the planes and dimensions, and I ended up in the plane of bliss, which is they call it being held in the arms of God, or the cradle of God. And having that experience, I found out that God is just like the sun. It shines evenly on everybody, and it doesn't have an ego. It can't judge. It's beyond that. And so we judge ourselves, and we carry the guilt and all the other stuff in our own fields. And we need to release, and we need to forgive ourselves, and then we can forgive others. But the bottom line is that you're not judged. God can't judge. It doesn't have an ego. It's not a little old man with a beard and a laptop taking notes and going to punish whoever didn't measure up. It doesn't, like most religions tell you, it's not like that. And when you understand that, it totally frees you. It releases you from all the guilt or the judgments of self, or even judgments of others. Like, people come at me all the time, attacking me and making all kinds of statements. And I just said, you know, God and I are good. Buddha and I, Jesus I, whatever, Kuan Yin, Mary. I go, we're good. I hang out with them all the time. So who are you? Who are you to place these limitations on me or project your things on me? And once you have that connection, the other stuff just doesn't affect you anymore.
Thank you. Previously, I didn't feel the density of the dream dimension as in reality, but perhaps because the veil between dimensions is thinning, at some point I began to feel that it had a density similar to these three dimensions. Even in dreams, I felt the same sensations and physical sensations as in the real world. So there were times when I memories of which was a dream or reality were mixed. I would like to ask you both about the beings that appears in my dream. For example, there was a being that pretended to be someone I knew, but a snake's tongue was sticking out of his mouth. If there's a clearly odd atmosphere or energy difference like this, it's easy for us to notice, but if not, how can we identify negative beings? Also, I think the appearance of negative entities is part of the obstruction of dreams. But what do you think their main purpose is?
You want to take that, Peter, and I'll
Yeah,
comment.
I'll start with that a little bit. So if you even go into the Nagamati text, they talk about a simulation type scenario, basically, of serpent, deformed fetus beings, greys, and reptilians. And they're basically, if we use this in the dream state scenario, you can acknowledge who's who by a feeling. We all know when something's not right in a dream, that you might be seeing somebody that you know, but you know it's not them. Because in some cases, as it's been relayed to me from positive beings, some of the dream experiences aren't real. And what's happening is they're giving you a screen experience that is symbolic for what really occurred, because the brain may not be able to decode to a certain extent such a high vibration experience. Same too with negative entities. They will appear as things basically to get your shield down, and then when they're doing what they're doing, it's usually to derive that energy, which usually turns into a nightmare, and you wake up with the form of paralysis. And that's basically what's going on. So it's like if you meet somebody and you just feel there's not something right. In some cases, it can be a huge frequency difference. Sometimes they might not be such a great person in a not so good stage in their life, and you're picking up on it. So there's this feeling, and we communicate and we know things more through feeling than verbalization. So it's a feeling, and just taking notice of those thoughts, because that's your intuition. That's the higher mind speaking through to the heart, even in a dream state.
Yeah. Also, too, there's different types of dreams. There's teaching dreams where they're trying to teach you something. And then some are just past life. You're processing dreams. You're processing past life stuff or other things. And it comes to you in images and things. Sometimes it'll show you a person what their true nature is, not what you think. Kind of warning dreams. And there's negative influence dreams and positive influence dreams. So it's important to meditate on the dream, and you can change that dream when you meditate on it. You can just clear it and change the outcome of it or whatever you want to do. But it's important to find out what kind of dream it was, what kind of influence is at play there, and what the message is. And when you meditate on it and ask your higher self, or connecting with Buddha or Kuan Yin or whoever you're working with, and ask them to reveal to you what kind of dream that was, what the truth is about this dream, and also ask for protection and clear out any residuals, because when they throw you into a panic and fear and everything, that's when they can really influence you. So again, you got to practice that loving detachment and just say, "Oh, that's interesting. Not mine. Have fun with that." And not participate. And there's a lot of people that are working very, very hard at night in their dream state and going all over the place, out of body, through different dimensions and helping others. And there's like a kind of a spiritual war going on. And a lot of us are involved in that. We wake up in the morning and we're just tired, and they go, "I don't know what I did all night." And that's usually what you did. And you may or may not remember it. And if you meditate, the veils go down, you start to remember these dreams and what you're doing. And it's also, you learn how to interact in these dreams and change the outcome.
Thank you. This is the last question. We may witness people who are criticized and judged by others, malicious words and actions, obstruction or attacked, and do things that we can't believe. In addition to humans, there are also various obstacles and attacks, such as the influence of negative beings and energy. I think you both have had various experiences so far, but how have you both dealt with them? Also, I think that cultivating good humanity is the foundation of everything. James says universal peace, further sisterly love, individual freedom, and prosperity for all. Or Peter says being a good person, being the best version of yourself. If we try to live in this way, our spirituality will also be elevated. Does that mean that we will ultimately be led to a flow that naturally connects with higher dimensional beings? I think there's the right time for each of us to connect with higher dimensional beings, but Is intention also necessary?
Yeah, you want to go, Peter, and I'll follow.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, there's always going to be criticism. There's going to be, family, friends, people that we disagree with. That's just a norm. And I think for myself personally, I see where people are at, and you've got to, in a lot of cases, meet people where they're at with love, with compassion, with non-judgment. And especially if they're coming at things in a negative light because it just couldn't be part of their reality, just shielding and holding that space, and you can't argue with that. There's arguments don't help the situation. So I think, even just saying to people that you love them, and you see their light in your mind when you're speaking to them and dealing with them, it can really help change the situation and the energy. Because when you don't feed the beast, well, in some cases you could say the beast might go crazier, but in this sense, you're not feeding it to an extent that it's going to sort of like perpetually move, their side of the conversation forward, because you're not feeding into the situation, just personally. So I think just love and compassion, it goes a long way in those types of scenarios.
Yeah, it goes back to what Peter was saying earlier too. The only reason anybody has any power over you is because you want something from them. So you want their love, their acceptance, their approval, their agreement, all of these things. When you make your own personal connection with Creator, God, or Great Spirit, whatever name you want to give it, you lose that because you're totally loved and accepted and approved of, on the inside. And so the external doesn't matter anymore. And it doesn't mean you're not going to be challenged, because truth has always been challenged, and higher wisdom, higher knowledge has always been challenged. I mean, messiahs usually die young on earth, unfortunately. That's happens a lot. So it's part of the program. And look what they did to Jesus. I mean, the ultimate program, they laid on him. They actually crucified him, but we don't have to go there anymore. I'm pretty sure crucifixion's illegal nowadays. And we don't have to allow that to happen. But we need to speak our truth without fear. And we need to practice, again, loving detachment, and be more accepting. And there's sometimes, you just have to say, as you wish, if that's what you want to believe, that's okay. I might have a different truth, but that's all right. And you don't have to get in all the battles and the arguments a lot of times. And I have a saying I use all the time. I always say, when they come and try to assassinate your character, and they throw all this stuff at you and come at you, I always say, thank you for establishing your character and your ignorance. Have a nice day, and so, or I just usually just walk away. Or like in the Skywatch field, we'll be out in the Skywatch field, and somebody always wants to argue. Those are satellites. Those are this. Even if they're flying on the mountain, landing, taking off in the sky, making right angle turns, powering up, all that stuff. There's always this left brain people stuck in their mind, and they can't accept the obvious. And in the field, a lot of times they'll try to argue about something they just saw, and they come up to you and they try to engage you. And I go, "Oh, did you see that?" They turn around and look. I just walk away. It's dark out there. Nobody can see where you went, And a lot of times I distract them and just walk away, because I love myself enough not to have to deal with the nonsense. If they are open, and you can have a discussion with them, and which I usually will do if that's possible. But if they've got a bad attitude, and they're trying to overpower you or condemn you or make you wrong or whatever, I don't have time for them. And I don't need their acceptance or approval. And I'm good with the higher dimensions and the higher beings. So I just let them have fun. I just did an interview with Nino Rodriguez, and I go, "What do you say to all these people that are going to be attacking everything you said and calling you a demon and everything else and all these other stuff?" And I said, "I'll be whatever they project on me." And and he just went, he goes, "That's a good one." I said, "Everybody's going to project, according to their social engineering, their religious beliefs or whatever. they're going to project on you, and it's like as you wish. And I can't change that. There's nothing I can do about that, and it's not my job to change that. So I just let them, again, I say thank you for establishing your ignorance and your character. Have a nice day. I'm not gonna be your whipping post, or if you're gonna project all this victim stuff into this, and then that's okay too. But I'm not gonna participate.
Yeah. And look, I think in a lot of cases too, some of these people haven't had experiences, or they've got something in their makeup that they need to be right, no matter what the topic, no matter what the scenario. And it's funny because even here now at the Jaya Sanctuary, which is East City, Australia, both James a lot earlier than I, we've had people from Lockheed Skunk Works, NASA. I've had a lot of people here from governments and militaries around the world. Funny enough, and James has had this for years going on. And the thing is, if we didn't know what was going on, or if we were charlatans, why are these people visiting? Because a lot of these people have access to higher knowledge, but they don't have access to what we've got. And what we've got is just a piece of that puzzle. And so they're trying to learn about this. And so you get these skeptics or people that, what does it say about a person when they just want to make trouble over an issue? Yet they can see satellite trackers, anomalous movement. They're going to put it into the pigeonhole in their mind, and rightly so for them, you could say, of what works for them in their reality. And that's why you just can't argue with this to an extent. And that's why I say to people, if you want to be open to an experience, be open to it and be childlike. Be skeptical, but the debunker mind's got to go out. You've got to be in that state that if this is real, and if it's safe to do so, I'm open to an experience if, that's what works at this time, because I think that's how a lot of this works in terms for me, that if you drop, instead of doing this, like James says, if you surrender after doing a clearing and you're open to experience what you need to be the best version of you, you might get something way more amazing than a UFO sighting. You may get contact in ways that you can't even fathom. And so you've just got to meet people with where they're at, and they meet us with where we're at as well.
Yeah, we've had scientists come out here, and again, the same thing. We've had Air Force base commanders, air traffic controllers, triple PhD Boeing engineers, Skunk Works people, all those people, and they've actually testified on our Bell show a while back, and we still have them coming out. And I had one scientist sitting there, and this ship was coming in, beautiful, kind of pink and bluish ship, and he says, I'll believe that's not a satellite when it turns around and goes the other way. And right when he said that, it totally reversed course and went back the other way, and it just shook him up pretty good. And I was laughing about that, and he goes, "What's so funny?" I said, "They're very telepathic. They know you when you look at them and your attention is on them. They pick up your thoughts and your intentions." And so obviously they heard this guy and put a little show on for him, because he was in a position where, and now he comes all the time to the ranch, and he's a great supporter of the ranch. But it's okay to be discerning. We totally tell people, be discerning, especially in the spiritual and UFO community, because a lot of people aren't who they say they are, and their actions are totally contrary to what it means to be enlightened or spiritual or whatever. So, keep your discernment, and but be open. It's like Occam's razor. You see a huge light up there that reverses course, or powers up, or lands on the mountain, or takes off from the mountain, goes up into space. Obviously, it's not a camper. It's not a plane. It's definitely not a meteor or a satellite. And so you have to apply that, because we have so much footage. Peter got beautiful footage of the mountain opening up, the door on the mountain to the earth opening up here, and the ships coming out of it, everything while it was here. And that just totally destroys the debunkers that want to say, oh, these are just campers. And what's the other guy, Rob Freeman?
Yeah, he had $150,000 USD camera, like the best cameras set up, and he just he just didn't know. Like, he thought, like most people, you can work out as height as this, that, the other. And then it's like, I don't even know this isn't even explainable. Like, there's not even a theory you can throw out with what he recorded as well. And you, James, I sent to Mika before we started that video that you did as well, like that you sent me with all the footage from just, is that since you've got back from Hawaii, like probably the last month of just UFO footage at the ranch?
That's 2 days.
That's a
That's
lot for
2
2 days.
evenings.
Yeah,
That's 2
yeah,
evenings, and I have twice as much now because there's been 2 days since that, and so
yeah,
I have twice as
crazy.
much. So it's crazy, and too, you got to realize that Rob Freeman had infrared, he had night vision, he had some other military things that we were looking through that I don't even know what they were, but he proved that these are not people, they're not campers, and the light spectrum was starlight. It was a
Yeah,
different kind of light.
there was this
And
device there that tells the spectrum. It can tell what
yeah,
any light is, if it's LED, halogen, and he said the closest thing that this is starlight. Like, it doesn't make sense. And was it extremely cold? It was a cold light, wasn't it? It was
yeah,
yeah, because if it was
yeah, it was
heat,
cold light.
you would have seen the face and the hands on people.
And the remote viewers came out, like Peter's been doing remote viewing. We had John Vivanco, other people, and they remote viewed the mountain, and they got all the same information that I've been talking about forever. And there's multiple beings. There's feline beings in there. There's Atlanteans, Lemurians, elven beings. Everything is going on on that mountain, and we even have Bigfoot walking around here, and we have their footprints and things. I don't mess with them. I mean, we put food out and peanut butter out for him and things like that, and he comes around. They're positive. They don't harm anybody, but I don't go chase them around trying to get a picture because I feel like, we should just leave them alone. Everybody's trying to track one down and get their 10 seconds of fame, unfortunately. But they have a saying here, the Native Americans have a saying, if you chase Bigfoot, you'll never find him. But if he wants to, he'll find you. So if you go out there with good intentions and you're very loving and you gift and you make offerings and things, bring some peanut butter, organic, or it has to be organic or they won't eat it. They totally respect that, and they know you're a good person, and they will show themselves or let you hear them. They'll start talking out there in the forest. But I feel no threat from them whatsoever. And there are some things out in the forest that lately that you might want to pay attention to that might not be in your highest and best good.
Yeah. And even with all that, people are going to believe what they're going to believe. And that's where, again, it comes back to compassion with all that. You can show all the evidence and have good intentions you want, but for some people, it just doesn't matter. But you meet them with where they're at.
Yeah, I know what's really interesting too is that, I probably speak for Peter too, is that we are probably the most censored people on the planet. We have the best evidence, the most proof, the witnesses, the video, and I definitely don't even know. I can barely run my computer. I don't know how to CGI or do any of that stuff. And we have the best evidence. We've had it for, us 40 years, Peter 20 years. Undeniable. We have the information that they want us to hear, everything. And we are the most censored uh, people on the planet. And these other guys are getting paid by the agencies, monthly, 30,000 here, whatever. And they're not who they say they are or anything. And they suck all the oxygen out of the room, all the financing and everything. So we've been doing this just on shoestring budget, just because our hearts and souls are involved in it. And it has been rough, keeping the doors open. But I know Peter could sure use some funding and some frog skins, and we could too. And I usually try to have everything pay for itself through the book sales, through the counseling work, and any workshops and everything. But it's just really slimmed down right now. So, it's weird for me to say this because I never asked for anything. But I mean, I know both of us could actually use a little funding on our side to keep the doors open.
A lot of work right now. There's a lot of, it's going against the status quo right now too. So people are sort of flocking everywhere trying to understand things. And there's just a lot of noise out there and there's a signal, but whether people can find that signal or not is another thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't it's a part of our society right now that the ones that are morally and integrity corrupt rise to the top, and the people who are authentic, and that are really living a life, aligned with the higher ideals and that are morally and spiritually, aligned, that are working with a higher constant energy, they seem to be the ones most attacked and most, you know, uh, censored, basically. It's kind of sad, but I think that's coming to an end because everything that everybody's looking for, we have. We've held the course and we have the evidence, we have the connection, we know why they're here. And we could take a quantum leap in evolution, and transcend war, disease, and poverty, if we get the right people behind this and get people supporting this. And so it's really necessary. I know both Peter and I are a bit beat up, trying to hold these frequencies and this information. But I do feel that old guard, that old system is collapsing right now. And it's not going to be able to maintain itself because the karma is going to be accelerated and they're not frequency specific to where the earth is going in its ascension process.
Thank you very much. You both are going to hold an event at E.T Ranch in the USA in July. Is there anything you'd like to announce about that, or any other workshops or events you're planning?
Yeah, if you go to eceti.org, it's eceti.org, you can see we have some beautiful workshops coming up, and everything from remote viewing to contact to working with the masters, self-mastery and ambassador training. We've got herbal workshops where we're teaching how to work with a lot of the herbal and work with the land, gardening workshops, silent retreats. We have everything on the website if you want to check it out. And then Peter and I are going to work together on some conferences and some other projects, here at the ranch as well.
Yeah, no, it's always a good time. There's actually a lot of people from Japan go to the ECETI ranch as well at
Yeah.
times. I've met actually a lot of Japanese when I've been there that they've traveled to the ranch, and tens of thousands of people go there. I'm a lot smaller operation in Australia here, though we have people from around the world come here, and we've got workshops going through to December. But yeah, the stuff that we do at the ranch, there's no other place like it. It's definitely one of the kind, and the energy is just really thin there with the veil. It's just a lot can happen for people individually and group wise when doing the stuff that James and I do together, let alone what happens there, whether we're there or not. It's that space is really sacred on the ECETI ranch property.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing too, is that we love the Japanese people when they come. They're always very respectful, very
Yeah.
honorable, and it's really important that to have that respect and be honorable and use discernment too at the same time. And we love that because we don't have to go through all the other nonsense, the ego and all the other nonsense that usually comes with this. So we've always had wonderful people, Dr. Emoto, all these people have been coming to the ranch, and we love it. We love when they come here, and they've always been very, very respectful, very honorable, which is nice. It's really nice to work with that energy. It's something Americans could learn.
Mika could do a guided tour one time. Bring some
Yeah.
Japanese people over.
Yeah, there you go.
Never know. Yeah.
Thank you. For more information about James and Peter, please check out the link in the description. Finally, do you have any messages for people of Japan?
Do you want to go first, Peter?
Yeah, just be the best you is my advice. Be in your heart space, have compassion for others, be in truth and do what feels right. And each single one of you have a piece of the jigsaw puzzle and have the same light inside you that James and I do. We've all got that source in us. And if you acknowledge that, work with that, and let that guide you and pray to that and work with that, which is the same thing with a lot of these high dimensional beings are doing, you can change the world that we're experiencing, and each one of us is a conduit to that change.
Yeah, and also too, I mean, there's a lot of earth changes and other things happening right now. And the more we can align with these higher dimensional beings, I've actually seen them fly over the San Andreas Fault here and send beams down into the fault. And they loosened it up and they changed an event that was going to happen, a major earthquake and things like that. So we really need to pay attention to the environment and start asking for help to make sure, because there are going to be a lot of earth changes. The sun is going ballistic right now. The earth is expanding. We're expanding. Everything and is expanding. And, just as we're going to be going through emotional outbursts now and then, so is the planet. And Sacagawea, I think, and some other earth. I have beautiful pictures of the volcano there going off, and you can see a goddess energy in the mountain. I'll have to send those to you, but they're incredible. I have pictures of Pele over in Hawaii, and you can see Pele dancing, in the volcano while it's going off. And there are spirits of the land, there's spirits of the mountain and things like that. And the more we can honor that and respect that and work with them and ask for help, pray for help, the more help we can get. So we have to initiate it. We have to ask for it. And when we do, it comes, because they have a non-intervention policy. They can't intervene unless we invite them. So it's real important to start inviting the help we need, to get us through these changes.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful time. Thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you both do for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.